Okay. Okay, commissioners ready? Okay, you can go ahead and turn it on. Okay, good morning. Would we all please stand for the invocation provided by Commissioner Barr, and then we will follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we say thank you for this beautiful day, this day that we can serve you first and foremost by serving others. Yes. Lord, guide us, direct us, and use us as we strive to do our very best to help those in our community. Lord, as we entered into a new year and a new month, a new year, that we just start out afresh and continue to work hard, tell the truth, and do what is right. Lord, have mercy upon us. Lead, guide, and direct us, I pray in thy name. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to call the Washington County Board of County Commissioners January 9th, 2018 meeting to order. With that, I would like to ask for the approval of minutes, and we'll do these one at a time. It's two sets. We'll do the December 19th minutes first.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the December 19th, 2017 minutes.
I was absent that one. The 19th? I was here the 19th.
Yes, yeah, well, I can't remember.
Thank you.
I will abstain on the 19th as well.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the approval of the 19th minutes. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed or abstain? Commissioner Klein, you abstaining on those? You're going to abstain on the set that you weren't here. Okay, we can figure that out. Okay, thank you. We also need to approve the December 29th minutes. I believe that was that Friday? Okay, so you were, okay.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion and second for the approval of the December 29th minutes. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? 4, 0, and 1. Thank you. Okay, we have any commissioners' reports and comments? Commissioner Kiefer?
Yeah, I'll just mention it's good to be back after the first of the year. During our little recess, that doesn't mean county government stopped. Just like to mention that Jim Hovis and myself made our way up to Cascade a couple days ago to speak with the group of parents who just expressed some concerns about the after-school program in Cascade and options that they might have. I don't know if Mr. Hovis wants to mention anything, but we had a great conversation. A few other possibilities were talked about, including the YMCA, and I do know the YMCA might be a little excited about what they could offer in Cascade through a partnership maybe with the community center.
I would only add that I think both myself and Commissioner Kiefer were overwhelmed by the number of parents that showed up that night. They had a crowd of about 26 parents, in addition to a staff of both the Boys and Girls Club and the school. So it was very well attended, and the community is obviously interested in what's going on there in Cascade. That was refreshing to see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing else.
Commissioner Klein?
No report.
Commissioner Myers?
Just Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to all.
And I'm very happy and thankful that the cold is broke. Actually see some construction going on.
Thank you. Commissioner Barr?
Good morning. Likewise, Happy New Year, and looking forward to getting back on track here and moving forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. And for myself, Happy New Year to all. I wish you a prosperous and safe New Year. Reports from county staff. We have any staff in the chambers back there that care to provide a report? Any staff members up here? County attorney?
I do have one.
Okay.
I have one. If you look, I placed a form in front of you this morning. It's called a budget adjustment form. It's a budget request to adjust the county attorney's budget. You can take a look at it. The request is to adjust the contracted services line from the county attorney's budget to be paid for as general operations. If you look at page 2, at the bottom of page 1, there's an explanation of the budget adjustment. It wasn't all print, so I actually printed it on page 2. County Attorney's Office is requesting an increase in the contracted services line items to pay for various legal fees associated with various different claims. The original amount in that line item was $30,000. And it says as of December 5th is when we initially put this together. There was $16,000 remaining. If you look down below, currently there's $9,044 remaining in that line item. We have outstanding invoices of $60,753.05, which would be a shortfall of $51,709.05. In addition, the county attorney's office in that line item pays for a variety of things, and one of the things that it does is if there's a claim against the county relating to a car accident or a slip and fall, and we refer that to the insurance carrier, and they assign an attorney to defend the county is responsible for any up to the deductible, and that money comes out of that line item. So there may be some additional cost between now and June 30th. So when we were doing requesting a budget adjustment, we wanted to have money in that line item just in case there's additional costs moving forward. So the request is that there be a budget adjustment of $100,000 put into the county attorney's contracted services line. That would allow us to pay all the outstanding invoices relating to the different investigations that we had back in the summer and the fall. And there would be $48,000 remaining to pay for any additional cost between now and June 30th. Now, there may not be any, but there may be. So that is a request before you, requesting a budget adjustment as shown on the sheet.
Okay, any questions, comments? And we need a motion for this?
I do need a motion.
Okay, we need a motion for the approval of the recommendations.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of those monies being transferred. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
One thing I will mention, it is in the paperwork you have. This is coming out of general operations.
You already mentioned that. Okay, thank you. Okay, any other staff up here have any reports to provide? Administrator?
Yes, sir. First, Jim provided some numbers. I'll let him explain those regarding your emergency meeting that was made last year.
Commissioners, I'm sure you recall, on the 29th of December, we met to pass an ordinance that would afford our citizens the opportunity to prepay their fiscal year 19 taxes to the Washington County Treasurer. I've spoken to our treasurer, Mr. Hershey, this morning, and he asked that I relay the following information to the board. He has received 46 real estate property tax payments for fiscal year 19 as a result of your action that you took, and they are still receiving prepayments via the mail system. He has also received fewer than 5 requests that their checks be returned as a result of the IRS advisory. So obviously, the citizens chose to take advantage of the opportunity that was afforded to them by the board on the 29th.
Thank you, Mr. Hovis. Any other staff reports? Rob?
I have a couple, sir. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to welcome in person Danielle Crabb, who is our Public Relations and Marketing Director. Danielle. So, thank you for being here today.
I'm excited and look forward to working with everyone.
Thank you.
A local from Clear Spring, so glad to have you. Thank you. You hit the ground running. We've already had a lot of initiatives discussed and well on our way for. I would like to say that Funkstown meeting will be next Tuesday evening, January 16. Just a brief outlook the next few weeks or couple months. February 6th will be the Town of Williamsport evening meeting. March 13th will be the Boonesboro meeting. This is all posted on the website for anyone who wants to see the calendar of the commissioners' meeting schedule. And the state of the county this year will be slightly later because of a number of changes in staff and software that has really kept staff extremely busy the last couple months. So State of the County is now scheduled with the chamber for April 3 rather than in February. Speaking of changes, this year, 2017 actually has been a year of transition. And in the past, I had brought to the commissioner's attention, we had close to 200 employees that had exceeded the 200-hour threshold beyond which they could carry hours. I am asking the commissioners, whether now or for later discussion, to consider allowing those employees who did because of the software changes, both in permit software last summer and a significant HR and financial software that was just changed over here in December, or last December, to consider to allow them to carry five additional days over, which would be 1 week from what they're typically allowed just for this year. And that is because of the inordinate amount of change that we went through in 2017 in software and administration, et cetera. So if that suits the board, we'll move forward with that. If not, we can discuss that later.
Are there any other departments that are allowed over 200 every?
Quite frankly, sir, it's been based on a very small department by department in the past, which is extraordinary circumstances. In this particular case, it's more widespread what's happened. Again, as I told you, that over 200 employees, or approximately 200 employees that have exceeded that 200 hours. It's not additional vacation days. What it is it's a nod to those employees who went out of their way to say, okay, we recognize that, and for this particular transition year, we'd like to recognize that with those 5 days being afforded to carry over. So instead of 200 hours, it would be 240 hours. And that has happened on a case-by-case basis in the past. Here we're looking to, rather than do case-by-case, we're looking to simply say across the board, which seems to be more transparent and more equitable to everyone.
So if we were to approve this, we could come back and look at the ordinance to see if we wanted to do any adjustments to that?
The policy in the future, you certainly could, yes.
What's the projected cost?
Some would say that there's no cost. Some would say that the projected cost of recognizing the staff that had made a strong commitment to the county to sacrifice hours. Again, some folks, even with the additional 5 days, are going to lose significant hours because they simply got cut off at 200. So some would say there's actually a savings in being able to award employees that have made such a strong commitment to the county. There is another perspective.
Yeah, I'm not challenging the commitment. I just wanted an idea what the total dollar value was.
Sure.
I wouldn't challenge their commitment now.
I think if we're making this available to employees across the board, I think it's a good idea and a good gesture of appreciation. I think it could likely impact every department in the county in the transition that we've had. So I think it's good that we're not picking out certain departments that had the major software upgrades and other things in particular, but I would be in favor of that, of 5 days.
Taking a vote?
He was in favor of it.
Yeah, so taking a vote, is that a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a second.
Okay, a motion, a second for that request approval. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, President. Thank you, Commissioners. And I'd like to say publicly thank you to the staff that's made such a strong commitment to the county and serving the county.
Okay.
I have one more thing. I was just talking to Commissioner Klein. Just to clarify, Commissioner Klein was not here on December 19th.
I was here for the
He was
emergency
here on
meeting.
December 29th,
Yeah, I had
so
the dates.
He had those reversed, so.
Thank you.
Right.
So I vote,
Right, that's what Mr. Meyer
just
said.
reverse my vote.
Right, so he can vote on the minutes for the 29th. He's abstaining on the 19th, so just to clarify.
We'll make sure Krista's on her toes for this meeting.
Thank you very
We
much.
moved that around 2 or 3 times.
That's why you want an attorney next to you sometimes.
I know when you're here.
Okay, last chance for county staff. Any boards or commissions? Okay, no boards or commissions.
President Baker, I would like to add, I've kind of failed to mention earlier this morning, please think about our Western Maryland delegation in particular, as they'll be heading off to Annapolis tomorrow. I think session opens at 12 noon tomorrow, and so for the next 90 days, they'll be traveling back and forth from Western Maryland, spending a lot of hours and a lot of effort, and I'm sure there'll be, as usual, somewhere close to 3,000 bills that they'll have to read and understand and contemplate and vote on and so forth. So keep our delegates and senators in mind. They have quite a bit ahead of them. So, and with that said, starting next Wednesday, I'm sure that our legislative committee at MACO will start up, and we'll be tracking them in Annapolis on Wednesdays at MACO, right alongside of them. So looking forward to that.
Okay, citizens' participation. We have any citizens here today that would care to participate? We'll start with the front row. Anyone in the front row care to make some comments for the commissioners? Yes, sir. We just need your name and address, and you can just come right up here. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm A.J. King, representing West End Baptist Chapel. Mr. Barr, I want to say, first of all, good morning and thank you for the lovely prayer of inviting the Lord into our house, and also for acknowledging our great country. And the book of John 14:6, he says, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life, and no one comes to the Father except through the Son. What a great way to build and maintain a relationship, but through the world of athletics. And Winter Street School will allow us to do that. We would like to partner with FCA to allow them to use the facility so they can run camps there. And in-house, we would also like to open those doors to the community. Picture this, young men and women playing indoor soccer one night, the next night volleyball, and then the third night where we'd have upper level competition of basketball. And upper level competition of basketball. Then from there, if we roll back the nets and the balls, and we can use that same area to serve our community. We could provide meals for the homeless. And most important, through these frigid winters that we're having, we can roll out cots as a homeless shelter. In Matthew 20, verse 28, the Lord came not to be served, but to serve. And that's what we like to do in the community of the Winter Street area, is we would like to serve through athletics. Thank you.
My name is Brandy Pence. I am a church member at West End Baptist Chapel. I'm also the direct care supervisor at Lasting Change, that was formerly the W House. I have seen a huge impact of this church on the ladies that we serve in the community that are battling with the early stages of addiction from drugs and alcohol. I've seen girls pass away before their involvement with the church. I've gotten some ladies involved, a church van to pick them up on Sunday mornings, take them to church, they attend service, they attend any other additional functions. It is an amazing resource for the community to get involved, for churches to help with the addiction piece. I can't say enough how much these ladies, they'll come to me when I'm working then and be like, when's the next church activity? I want to be able to reach more clients. We are outgrowing our space, and the Winter Street School would definitely allow us to help more clients. The Lasting Change is growing, and we are outgrowing where we're at with the amount of clients that we serve. the same is happening with church. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Rick Boswell, and I thank you for your time this morning. All four of us are up here this morning to petition for acquiring the Winter Street School. I had planned what I wanted to say this morning, and then all of a sudden it came to me that from Ben Franklin, of all people, an ounce of prevention for a pound of cure. Didn't really resonate with me at first, but as I thought about it, that was to deal with fire safety. And I still wasn't catching on to it. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but prayerfully it came to me a little bit later, and I've got this fire safety manual right here called the Holy Bible. And if you go into Revelations, it'll really hit home what that fire safety and fire prevention is all about. But we were designed in such a way with our Creator that as men and as mankind, we try to fix things. And the whole premise behind that statement and why it's more prevalent today is if we would prevent some of these things happening, we wouldn't need that whole pound of cure. I'm working on a project across the river in another county, and we're working on a facility. We're renovating a building for addiction rehabilitation. My resources alone would be more well-served and more gratifying for me if I could use those resources in the preventive part. It would certainly feel a whole lot better than dealing with the effects of not having that prevention. So when we look at people that, and there's so many different topics here, but we'll talk about drugs and we'll talk about alcohol. That person that takes that first drink becomes drunk, or the person that uses that drug, it not only affects them as a person, but it affects their entire family. And if they're out in a vehicle, they can affect multiple families. It just spreads out like a fan. That's the way evil works, but that's the way greatness and that's the way goodness can work too. If we can be a part of Washington County, make it a safer place to live, it not only affects the people in the community beforehand, but it also affects the economy and the business. Businesses would want to come here. Families would want to raise their families here. And so that's why we're coming to you today. We have a letter of intent and for you all to consider, and we would just ask that you prayerfully consider it, just like we prayerfully considered putting that letter of intent in. We didn't just come here hastily. We do want to make an impact. We do want to help, and we just thank you for your time.
And sir, what was your address again? Your address?
Where I live?
Yes.
I live in Falling Waters, West Virginia.
Okay, and then did we get your address?
I live in Morgansville.
Okay. And,
I live in Hagerstown.
okay. Well, we normally get addresses in case we have to do mailings and so forth.
My address, 53 East North Avenue, Hagerstown, Maryland.
P.O. Box 81, Morgansville, Maryland, 21767.
P.O. Box 1776, Falling Waters, West Virginia.
Thank you, sir.
But my home is Washington County, Clear Spring.
There you go.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Mr. Boswell. 1776?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, good morning. My name is Shane Wilt. My address is 723 Marathon Drive here in Hagerstown, Maryland, and I am the senior pastor of Weston Baptist Chapel. We want to start off this morning by saying thank you for the opportunity that you guys have granted us to just share our hearts. 19 years ago, when I took over the pastorate there, it was my desire that I believe that we serve God best by serving other people, and that's been our heart's desire at West End Baptist Chapel, and we have wrote you a letter of intent that we would like to continue and expand that opportunity to serve the community with the purchase of Winter Street School. We believe that we can do that by furthering the connections that we've already had. We've made connections with the W House, which is now called Lasting Change, the Wells House, which is the Man's House here in Hagerstown. We have partnered with Celebrate Recovery, that is working with the opioid addiction and drug and alcohol problems here in Washington County. We have partnered with local food banks. We were just recently reached out to by Bester Elementary School, and our church provided coats for Bester Elementary School, and we want to show the community that it's our desire to serve them and to reach them and love them. And we believe that the purchase of this property would be able to allow us to further do that in a greater capacity. We want to partner with Fellowship of Christian Athletes and open up the gym for camps and activities. Upward Basketball, we want to partner with them so that boys and girls can have a place to come and participate in athletics. Our desire is on these cold winter nights to be able to bring some of the people in off the street and get warm in that gymnasium and feed them with the soup kitchen. So that's our desire. We have wrote a letter outlining the things that we do and desire to do. And we would ask, President, if we could submit that letter to you and your board here in an attempt to just let you know a little bit about who we are and our desire to continue to serve Washington County through the purchase of Winter Street School. And once again, I thank you for your opportunity this morning to share our heart and our vision and our passion for reaching hurting people.
The address of the West End Baptist Chapel.
101 Buena Vista Avenue, Hagerstown, Maryland.
That's where I used to go when I was a kid. That's why I was asking.
Oh, you went to school there,
Yeah.
or went to church there?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that encouragement.
Yeah.
That really lifts my
Why aren't you
spirits.
still going?
I go to Emmanuel Baptist.
Great question.
I was going to say, he had an answer to it too, didn't he?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions that we might be able to answer for you this morning? Thank you.
Commissioners have, okay. Commissioner Myers.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
This has been out there for quite a while. Why, what, you know, as far as the advertisement and so forth, what, best part of a year? Longer? I think I saw a real estate lady here. How long we've had this on the market? It'll be a year in April.
As far as the sale of the building, our desire,
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden now
well, our desire
you
is
initially
that
did not bid, correct?
we had one worship service at West End Baptist Chapel, and we have recently gone to 2 worship services just because we cannot continue to park and seat people because the church is growing. We thank God for that. So our desire is to relocate to a bigger building, which we can accommodate more people and meet more needs. And we began to pray over the opportunity of staying in the west end of Hagerstown. Our desire is to reach the community in the west end of Hagerstown, and we just...
Well, that answers my second question, but I guess the first question is, when it came out for bid originally, you weren't the group that bid.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. This is our first time speaking to you about this. Yes, sir.
And have you all put together the fact of the expense of the upkeep and maintaining and so forth?
Yes, sir. We have considered the fact that our heating bills are going to go up and our expenditures are going to go up, and we are working on budgets which would be able to meet the needs of that building if we were allowed to be able to purchase it. Yes, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to have to, we have to move off of citizens' participation right now, but we will be coming back to it. We do have an advertised public hearing scheduled for 10:30, so we're going to move down to the 10:30 item, and it's a public hearing application for map amendment RZ 17-004. Okay, that's the next thing on the agenda. And the purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony concerning the matter. The procedure is as follows. We will first have staff introduce the matter. The applicant will then have the opportunity to testify, after which the hearing will be open for public comment and testimony. Public comment and testimony is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. After everyone who wishes to speak has done so, the applicant will have the opportunity for a brief rebuttal because the applicant has the burden. The hearing and the record will then close, and no other comments, correspondence, or emails will be considered. The commissioners may discuss the issue and take any action that they deem appropriate, including adoption or rejection of the proposal, or they may take the issue under advisement and deliberate at a later date. Okay, if we have anyone here today that would care to testify, you need to stand, and we will read you an oath, and you'll have to raise your right hand and swear that you're going to abide by the oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the responses given and statements made will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, now I'd like to ask Mr. Goodrich, our Director of Division of Planning and Zoning, to present the information.
Thank you, Commissioner Baker.
you.
This is a public hearing for rezoning case RZ 17004. There are 3 parcels involved in this application for rezoning. You have several maps in your agenda material that will help you locate these parcels. They're identified either by their parcel numbers 131, 174, and 173 on property map 26, or you can identify them by their street addresses 21314 and 21338 Leitersburg Pike and 21385 Lighters Mill Road. All 3 together total 7.15 acres. All 3 of them are currently zoned rural village, and all 3 are part of the request to have that zoning, to have the rural business floating zone applied to them. 2 of the parcels sit along Leitersburg Pike and are owned by Bluegrass Commercial LLC, and the 3rd parcel sits on Lighters Mill Road and is owned by Michael and Kelly Scott, who are also the owners of Bluegrass Commercial LLC. You're probably familiar with the Leitersburg location, and the location of the village of Leitersburg, which is on the east side of Maryland Route 60. These parcels are immediately opposite the village on the west side of Maryland Route 60. The 3 parcels are contiguous to a parcel that Bluegrass Commercial also owns and is already zoned rural business. All 3 of these touch that parcel. And you should, on the maps that you have in your agenda material, you should be able to see that parcel and how these 3 are adjacent to it. At this point, I'd like to submit the entire contents of the file for the case that we keep in the Planning and Zoning Department. Submit that entire file for the record of this hearing. That would include the application, the staff report, the records of the public notice for this meeting, as well as the Planning Commission's public information meeting, the minutes of the Planning Commission's meeting, and the minutes of the meeting where they discussed and made a recommendation on this application, and all of the public comment that we received either during the hearing or the written comments that we received after the public information meeting. They're all part of the record and are submitted for the record of the hearing. In the staff report, the staff has detailed for you the items required by the zoning ordinance when evaluating a rezoning application, and those items include a written description of the location and the physical features, a population analysis, a discussion of the available public facilities like water and sewer, emergency services, schools, public transportation, and the general transportation network. It also discusses the compatibility of this proposal with the existing and proposed uses in the area and the relationship to the county's comprehensive plan. Finally, the staff report that you have in your agenda details the criteria that the Planning Commission is to consider when making a recommendation. That would be the purpose of the district, the availability of safe and usable access to the public road network, adequate provisions for water, sewer, stormwater, and other site design requirements, and compatibility with existing uses in the neighborhood. This rural business that's being requested is a floating zone and is approved or denied based on meeting those specific criteria, which I just mentioned, and also for the specific use that is proposed. The use mentioned earlier, or the use that's mentioned in the staff report, is an expansion of the New Direction Utilities that's on the parcel that's already zoned RB. New Direction Utilities is owned by Bluegrass Commercial and Mr. and Mrs. Scott. And these 3 parcels would most likely be combined and used in conjunction with the portion of New Direction Utilities that's already on the adjacent properties. Since there are such specific criteria to follow for the rural business zoning, the usual change or mistake rule doesn't apply here. The applicant does not have to show that there's been a substantial change in the character of the neighborhood or that there was a mistake in the original zoning, but they do need to show that their requested rural business is appropriate and logical for the site, and that they've met the criteria, and that the proposed use is a permitted use in the rural business district, which it is. The Planning Commission had a public information meeting on September 18th to take public comment and hear a presentation about the requested rezoning. They met again on October the 2nd and discussed the information they received and made a recommendation to the commissioners to approve the application for rezoning.
I was looking for community comments. I couldn't find
Any of the written comments that we received during the Planning Commission's public information meeting or afterwards are all attached to the material that you have in your agenda. My department, the Planning and Zoning Department, has not received any additional written comments since the Planning Commission made its recommendation in October.
How many public comments did you receive?
There were 3 people, I believe, that spoke during the public information meeting. They didn't take a position in favor or opposed to. They voiced their concerns about traffic and the effects on an adjacent property if this was changed to rural business. And I think those written comments that we received were a reinforcement of the folks that spoke during the public information meeting.
Okay, Mr. Dival-Bliss, how are you this morning?
Excellent. President Baker, thank you very much. My name is Jason Dival-Bliss, 13424 Pennsylvania Avenue, Hagerstown, Maryland. I represent the applicant in this rezoning, Bluegrass Commercial LLC, and the owners thereof, Mike and Kelly Scott. As Steve mentioned, Mr. and Mrs. Scott have operated their business, New Direction Utilities, from, do you guys have this pretty drawing as part of the package from Steve? That has shows you the 4 properties that are owned by the Scotts and by Bluegrass? Okay. So just to orient you, these properties roughly surround the Liberty gas station right off Leitersburg Pike, and right adjacent to the Liberty is where the Scotts have operated their business, New Direction Utilities, since 2002. They are also local residents living just down the street from this property, where they've resided for, I believe, over 20 years. As Steve explained, this is sort of an interesting overlay request in that one piece of the Scotts property right in the middle is currently zoned RB, has the overlay. This request is in essence to expand that overlay to the 3 adjacent properties. And I point that out because I think the 15 years of New Direction's operation, basically from this location, is important to note. 1, from a compatibility standpoint, and then 2, sort of from a legal standpoint, in that the zoning ordinance states specifically that with regard to businesses that existed in the rural area at the time the rural business overlay zoning was adopted in September 2015, and which were given the overlay zoning, that basically those businesses need not take any action to continue operation. Such existing uses are viewed as compatible with the character of the rural area, and their continued operation is deemed consistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan. Therefore, the 15-year track record of this business in this location is sort of deemed compatible by the zoning ordinance and just simply by that 15-year of history. As Steve mentioned, the Scotts' intention with regard to these properties is that they would be used to expand the business onto the adjacent properties. They would not be used separate and independent from that business. They would be used in combination therewith. With regard to the specific uses for the buildings, I believe the exhibit points out that the Stone House property to the north, closest to Lighters Mill Road, the intended use of that would be for office use. Coming to the south, there's also a small residential structure there that would also be converted to office use. The property furthest to the south, the largest of the properties actually, the use is still somewhat undetermined because it does not have an existing well. It has a cistern. If a well cannot be drilled on that property, it is likely simply to be used as a storage yard as opposed to an occupied habitable structure of any sort. But it gives you a flavor of what the specific uses are to be used for if the rural business overlay were to be approved. To give you a sense of the intensity of that use, again, going north to south. The Stonehouse property would have 3 to 4 employees maximum. The smaller house to the south, same number, 3 to 4. And best case scenario with regard to the property furthest to the south, 2 to 3 employees. So adding together those numbers, you get somewhere between 8 and 11 employees on this aggregate property if the rural business were to be approved. And combine that with the existing New Direction shop property, which has 3 to 5 employees, you're talking about 11 to 16 employees. For 9 acres, 11 to 16 employees is not an incredibly intense level of use. Hours of operation will be approximately 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. As Steve pointed out, New Direction is in the business of utility installation on a large scale. A lot of their work is down the road in the metropolitan Baltimore and Washington area, so there's a lot of early morning gathering and then going from the site. With regard to how the property would be developed and utilized, you can see there's approximately 1,000 linear feet of road frontage along Leitersburg Pike, and where the access point or points to Leitersburg Pike ultimately end up will be a function of the planning process with both Washington County Planning Commission, Engineering, and the State Highway Administration. So what you see depicted on the concept plan that accompanies the RB request are the existing access points. It is extraordinarily likely that those existing access points will be changed as a result of the traffic impact study process, the Planning Commission process, and the review of State Highway Administration. But simply for illustration purposes, we showed you the existing access points to which there is an entitlement. The last point I want to bring up is one of the criteria for the RB overlay zonings is that the location is not incompatible with the existing land uses in the area. I would point out that within 1,000 feet of these properties, there are 5 additional properties that have the RB overlay. You can see them depicted, hopefully, in the colored map that you have up here, where the other RB properties in and around the Leitersburg area are shown in crosshatch. So there is a presence in this area of other RB uses. And I also would point out, again, proximity to Leitersburg Pike. You have a road there with 10,000 plus trips per day. The posted speed limit there is 50 miles per hour. Any of you who travel through that section know the actual speed of traffic is a lot higher. So there's no doubt this is not an area where a business is incompatible. We would argue that this is a perfectly logical and compatible location, given the presence of the other RBs and the 15-year history of New Direction operating from this location. So unless you have any other questions, I'll reserve any comment until rebuttal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now open the hearing for public comment. We have anyone here from the public that would care to testify today? I believe a gentleman in the back row took the oath. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm Donald Rister. I'm at 13460 Little Antietam Road.
Could you spell your last name, sir?
What's that?
Spell your last name.
R-I-S-S-E-R.
Okay, Rister.
My wife and I were at the previous hearing several weeks ago, and it triggered some ideas that we ought to really scope out this lot. And we had the opportunity to do that, and we'd like to address 2 major issues that are negative issues concerning this property. The first one is environmental. The second has to do with aesthetics, and I'll start with the environmental portion. I'll give you a little sense of the terrain of this property. It slopes from the Leitersburg Pike to the west, and in an effort to create a reasonable level area, the property had to be filled with stone and rock to create a more level area because it slopes so severely. The problem with that is, after that was done, there is a whole series, literally dozens, of wrecked, abandoned vehicles that are sitting at the back edge of that stone area. And by the way, it slopes severely into the Antietam Creek. It's a major problem. It needs to be addressed. And I got to believe that if the EPA were to get a look at that, they wouldn't be real impressed. So that's one issue that we need to face when you consider that those rusting vehicles are going to spew petroleum, gas, oil, antifreeze, and rust directly into the Antietam Creek. And that's a serious problem. The second issue has to do with the aesthetics of the property. It appears, some portions of it appear to be more like a salvage yard than a place of business. There are multiple abandoned vehicles, storage units, a very unsightly situation. And none of us would choose to want to live adjacent to a property that has this vision. It's unfortunate. It's become a blight on the community. Plus, now they want to give us more of it. And it's sad to say, but Leitersburg deserves better. It deserves much better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, any other participants? Yes, sir. How are you this morning?
My name is Herman Nijelski, 21512 Leitersburg, Smithsburg Road in Hagerstown.
Spell your last name, please.
And, excuse my voice, N-I-E, D as in dog, Z as in zebra, I-E-L-S-K-I. I spoke at the original hearing, and I had 2 points at that time. One was the environment as far as the runoff to the Antietam, which has already been addressed. The second one is the traffic. And if you go through Leitersburg during the busy times, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to get through. At times, just 5 to 7 minutes before you can get onto the Leitersburg Pike. I submitted a letter to the state, to the district office, and I did not get any kind of good response. All they said is, this is what it is, and it's not under review. My point is that, first of all, the 50-mile zone within 4 intersections, 4 different entrances to it, is really a little bit too fast, especially since they're going 60 or 70 miles, because a lot of times they are. Unfortunately, I had the one occasion to walk to the gas station from my house, and it took me about 5 minutes just to get across. And then when I was coming back, I'm standing on the edge of the road, and here's a car coming right at me, not on the road, but right in the middle of the little sideline. And it's just that there is no control. During the high active period, there are cars backed all the way past my house. And if you're familiar with Leitersburg at all, the Lutheran church is right there halfway up the street. And sometimes it goes all the way back up to the old school. It's a hazard, and it's also, it doesn't make it attractive for individuals living in Leitersburg. And the fact that there's a high number of senior citizens, and there are children, and they're not being accommodated. And I appreciate it. I know you have basically no control over the Leitersburg-Smithsburg Road. But I felt that maybe if there is some kind of pressure, something that can be put on, if we had one traffic light at one of those intersections, that could slow people down. Because most of the traffic is coming from Pennsylvania. It just drives through Leitersburg, and it's a shortcut to go over to 64. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other citizens here today care to participate in this public hearing? Okay, we'll give the attorney an opportunity for a rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Just really quick, with regard to the vehicles located on site, yes, there are a number of vehicles on site, but this is a very active site because it is where New Direction Utilities operates out of. So it is not a situation where you've got a fleet of abandoned vehicles sitting around not being paid attention to. It's an active operating site. To the extent there are vehicles sitting there that still haven't gone through the shop, I don't think that presents a unique environmental concern. It can't be handled like any other commercial operation through the site plan process, which ties into the other concern, aesthetics. The site planning process that would be a prerequisite to the further development of these properties consistent with the RB zoning will take into account additional screening and buffering. Those are measures that do not currently exist because the properties are zoned rural village and are not utilized as part of this operation. In particular, I'd like to point out that there is a very long row of evergreen trees along Leitersburg Pike that are actually in the state highway right-of-way. They were recently trimmed, I use that term loosely, by the state highway who really butchered them up pretty good and reduced the amount of natural screening to the site. But I can assure you, going through the site plan process again with the Planning Commission, I suspect that Leitersburg Pike boundary, as well as the other boundaries that are visible from any residential properties, would be addressed. With regard to traffic, there is no doubt traffic is the number one biggest concern with regard to the future development of this property, consistent with the RB. But I think the problem is the existing conditions. The existing conditions, again, will be the baseline for evaluating how this property can be utilized in a safe manner. We fully expect that some sort of traffic calming measures would be requested of us, whether that be additional striping or lanes or improvements to sight distance or perhaps the posting of a lower speed limit. I do not know. But this is a State Highway Administration roadway, and they will not be bashful about sharing with us their recommendations for how we make the future development of this property safe in light of those existing conditions.
The vehicles, are they tagged or untagged?
I believe they are all tagged. I honestly don't know that they are all tagged sitting here, but again, it's an active operating business, so my expectation is the majority of those vehicles are there going through or coming out of the shop repair facility, which is what happens in that building. To the extent there are untagged vehicles sitting back there, I suspect Mr. Scott sitting back here will, do what it takes to address that.
Any questions, commissioners? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll decide this at a later date. Okay. Any last chance for commissioner questions? Okay, the public hearing is now concluded and the record is closed. And one more opportunity for commissioner comments, and if none, we'll bring this back at a later time for discussion and so forth. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving back to the agenda. Okay, we'll go back to citizens' participation. We have any citizens in the front row that care to participate other than the ones that have already participated? Yes, sir.
Mr. Baker, I'm Daniel Cross from Cloverly Hill. Could I cede to the Sims guys and one other that has to leave in a timely fashion, sir? They're speaking on my topic.
That's citizens' participation. They have the right to speak for 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
But I've never timed it. I never time it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Daniel Cross. I am the owner of Cloverly Hill LLC. The street address is 5301 Buckystown Pike in Frederick, 21704. I'm here this afternoon because before you in a few minutes is a decision on express approval following the vote by the Smithsburg Town Council to annex my property into the town of Smithsburg. I would point out that I'm following planning guidance going back to 2005. I acquired the parcel in 2004. Since 2005, the direction I've received from Washington County Planning has been to proceed in the town. I am in the town's designated growth area. I'm indeed in your county designated growth area. I bought the parcel because public water is already on the parcel, public sewer is in immediate proximity. As a businessman and as a developer, I would ask, if not here, where the infrastructure is there and planning guidance says this is where it's supposed to happen. Today, your vote is a judgment on zoning. I've worked with the Town Planning Commission over the last year on those zoning issues. The Town Council agreed with the decisions of their Planning Commission, and I believe you have the minutes of their meeting of December 5th with each of the council members' commentaries accordingly. I'm seeking to create a mixed-use, intergenerational community in Smithsburg because that's what I believe the capitalist market is calling for. I don't desire to build an exclusive residential community, and I don't desire to build a shopping center. Neither of those are applicable on this piece of ground. I do desire to provide a place for the new headquarters for SEMS. That'll be addressed in more detail in a moment. I do desire to provide a place for a larger and better daycare center in the Smithsburg area. We desire to provide an assisted and independent living adult community to include a memory care clinic that will bring approximately 35 new jobs to Smithsburg. I respect the public commentary regarding the limitation on schools, and frankly, by doing a senior community and a commercial institutional use, I'm reducing that school impact. On October 20th, I held a public meeting at SEMS to address the citizens' questions beyond what you heard at your meeting in Smithsburg on October 10th. I said then, I repeat now, we intend approximately in the ballpark 34 single-family homes, approximately in the ballpark, but subject to the Smithsburg Board of Zoning Adjustments approval, 46 townhouses. Not the hundreds numbers that are in your report from Steve or that my naysayers are broadcasting on Facebook. I ask you to please approve today the express approval and approve the zoning for me to go forward and create a mixed-use intergenerational community in Smithsburg. I can take questions after the other public comments or now at your pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone in the front row care to anyone else in the front row care to participate?
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Again, Jason Dival, Best 13424 Pennsylvania Avenue. I happen to be counsel to Cloverly Hill LLC and Mr. Cross, and I just wanted to chime in on sort of the, I guess maybe the boring legal detail of the express approval issue that will be before you momentarily as presented by Mr. Goodrich. I want to make it clear that rejection of the zoning requested by Mr. Cross and approved now by the town of Smithsburg equals an endorsement of the existing zoning, which is its residential zoning. As Mr. Cross pointed out, that residential zoning would have more of an impact to the schools, the water, the sewer infrastructure, and things of that sort. Rejection of the zoning does not necessarily mean that the annexation or the development or even the commercial zoning itself won't happen. It simply means that there's a 5-year deferral of the development pursuant to that zoning. So again, that's the boring sort of detail of the express approval issue to be presented to you here this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Calabrese. Okay, anyone else in the front row care to participate? Let's move back to the second row. We have any citizens that care to participate? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Sure. Good morning. My name is Stephen Baudouin, B-E-A-U-D-O-I-N. I live at 1110 Potomac Avenue here in Hagerstown. So good morning, Washington County Commissioners. As I mentioned, I'm Stephen Baudouin. I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland Symphony Orchestra as of 4 months ago. and it's nice to be with you this morning. I've had the chance to connect and meet with some, but not yet all of you, and I want to say how grateful I am for your support of the Maryland Symphony. I want to especially thank Commissioners Barr and Klein, who I had the opportunity to meet and connect with over the last few months, and who I saw both at our Home for the Holidays concert.
You're an official county resident now since you did a selfie with me.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Many more to come. And Commissioners Baker and Kiefer and Myers, I look forward to connecting with you and all of our work together in the months and years ahead. I'm here today making my first appearance before you with an urgent and a very serious request. And my request is that the Commission approve forward funding for the historic Maryland Theater Expansion Project, providing the needed cash flow to keep the project on time and moving forward. And this is a project in which the Maryland Symphony has a unique stake. Since our founding right here in Washington County in 1982, we have served millions of folks coming through the Maryland Theater Hall with our concerts, our education programs, our community programs. And today, annually, we welcome about 50,000 folks annually to our programs at the theater, and 2/3 of our audience are from right here in Washington County. So the MSO is days away from signing a lease agreement with the theater, and this lease agreement calls for expanded office and event space in the theater's expanded footprint that the project creates. And this expansion is mission critical for us, and it will help the Symphony expand our staff capacity. It will help us provide a higher level of patron services to our attendees. And ultimately, Commissioners, it's going to help us serve more people with more programs, and it will help us to expand our positive economic impact and our positive cultural impact in this community. Recently, our dear friend, Commissioner Barr, made an impassioned plea for this community, including especially our elected leaders, to continue to support the Symphony. And Commissioner Barr, I deeply appreciate your continued support of the MSO. In a very different time and in a very different context, President Ronald Reagan once spoke of a time for choosing. And I believe actually that this moment, with this project with the theater, and the potential for its game-changing positive impact on our citizens is, in its way, another time for choosing for this community and for this commission. I think by choosing to forward fund this project, the commission has an opportunity to choose growth, to choose health, to choose creativity. And I urge you to forward fund the Maryland Theater's project, providing them with the critical cash flow to move forward. Frankly, the MSO needs this project to happen, and we need it to happen now. Washington County needs this project to happen, and Washington County needs this project to happen now. And with your support today, it will be remembered by me. Your support of this project will be remembered by all citizens of this county as the final push that helped this project positively transform this place for the better. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else in the second row care to participate in citizens' participation? Good morning.
I'm Kevin Dimmons, Chief of Smithsburg EMS, 13,514 Kretzinger Road, Smithsburg, Maryland.
I'm Ward Flager, the Assistant Chief, Smithsburg EMS, Operations Director. I live at 109 Coulter Court in the town of Smithsburg.
We came here today on behalf of the Board of Directors for Smithsburg EMS, the officers and volunteers. We are a third service nonprofit, 501c3, providing emergency medical services to approximately 10,000 residents in rural Washington County. Our primary response area covers approximately 70 miles and includes communities of Smithsburg, Leitersburg, Mount Etna, Cascade, Penmar, Fort Ritchie, Ringgold, Cavetown, and Wolfville. We also provide direct mutual aid to the eastern suburbs of Hagerstown, Frederick County, Maryland, and Franklin County, Pennsylvania. Last year, we were dispatched to approximately 1,400 calls for service. We had put out a strategic plan expressing that we have been experiencing growing pains for over the past 10 years. We're in desperate need of office space, classroom space, community room, and living quarters. The current facility we're in was constructed in 1990, over 27 years ago, and at this point is pretty obsolete. We wish to relocate and build a new multi-purpose station in Smithsburg within the town limits, and we have selected a general contractor, an architect, and a fundraiser to assist us. We've been working with Daniel Cross, owner of Cloverly Hill LLC, for the past 2 years, and subject to obtaining all necessary approvals, Mr. Cross has committed to donate his land in the proposed Cloverly community in Smithsburg, on which we'll build our new station. However, to do so, Cloverly Hill LLC needs the express approval of your body during your meeting today for the general commercial zoning granted by the town of Smithsburg as part of annexation. We earnestly request your positive support for express approval, and an affirmative vote represents the path forward for our new station and a better emergency services for 10,000 of your constituents. And I just want to add that we currently have approximately 14 paid staff and probably about 30 volunteers. And this location will give us much better access to all of our citizens. Right on 64, we have great access to 77, 64, 491. We go up and we can hit Ringgold and shoot right out to Leitersburg faster than we can now. So this is a much better location for us and for all of our citizens.
Okay. You have any comments, sir?
No, sir, I'm just,
Oh, okay.
It's just my wingman.
There you go.
what Chief Demon said. How many acres are being,
Approximately 2 acres.
and you'll have a board of directors that voted on this?
To move forward?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, every step of the way they've been involved, and everything has met their approval so far.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the second row care to participate? Okay.
Hello, my name is Holly Frazier. My address is 11540 Berman Drive West, and it's in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. I own a daycare center in Smithsburg, Maryland, though that's why I'm here, for the same reason, to get this annexation express approval. This daycare center, my favorite place, is located in Smithsburg, Maryland. It's been a licensed daycare center since 1993. I have owned the center since 2012 with only one owner before myself. I have over 110 children in my daycare center. I've had to expand to do 2 different locations, which causes a little bit of headache sometimes. I have the one right beside AT&T in Smithsburg, and then I've rented out a local church for a before-school, after-school program. The church address is 12911 Bickle Road, Smithsburg Valley Baptist Church. Total between both locations, I employ 15 staff members, and my business is bursting at the seams. Child care is needed in Smithsburg, Maryland, and I don't have any more places to rent. I don't have any more classrooms available. The phone rings, and I have no care to provide to these families. You can hear the desperation in their voices when I say, I'm sorry, I'm full. I try everything I can to work with schedules and to get kids in, but there is not a child care facility in Smithsburg besides myself to really help these families. So it's a needed thing in our community. I would love to have a new modern facility, more up to date. Obviously, the center was built in '93, and we, changed things. But a new, larger playground equipment and more parking would be awesome. Daniel Cross with Cloverly Hill, as well as Brett Freit with BFM Architects, have helped me design a new building. Of course, everything is subject to final business terms and approval, as my land won't be donated. So we have to go over all the business ends in more, detail with myself and Daniel. But everything is on track, and things are really looking well for the new daycare center to be at his land. I understand that the Smithsburg Town Council did vote and approve the annexation, so my desire is to use the land as the new daycare facility. So it's all, of course, subject to your express approval. I am here today to, kind of hope that you guys all vote yes to get this ball rolling and that we can grow. With the growth, I could see no reason why I could not have, 150 children in this facility rather quickly. And obviously with that would come, I would need to employ more staff. I could see my up to 20 employees with 150. So thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else in the second row care to participate? Saw your finger point. Did you want to make some comments, sir? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that's the first row. I thought you were sitting in the second row.
Anybody in the second row still?
No, we'll go back to the first row.
I was going to keep my mouth shut, but my name's Craig McLeave, 64 South Main Street, Smithsburg, Maryland. And I'm afraid that everybody that getting the, I love the guys in the ambulance squad. These guys work very hard. And, I don't want them to get mad at me about what I'm about to say, but, what they said was they could go, up to Ringgold, and they could go, up the mountain and everything, but they didn't say anything about when there's a train going through town, how they're going to handle going to anybody in the town or Whispering Hills. They're going to have to go the whole way around the town and come in, because the train does go through town quite a bit. They have that problem now when the train goes through town and they have a call in the mountain, they have to go around now. So, I know they mentioned about they were able to, get to Ringgold and all that a lot quicker, but when there's a train, it's going to really foul things up. I feel like this whole thing is going to be a real mess when it comes to the schools. I know they say that the schools aren't going to be affected. I talked to the principal a couple times, and he said right now they're at the point of, they're not overcrowded, but they wouldn't want any more kids. But next year, next year when the 8th graders move up, they're going to be overcrowded. So I know that this whole thing is probably not going to happen for years, but with this happening, we still have a lot of kids coming in, and I'm afraid, with the other development on the other side of town, they're going to start building there. So that's going to also bring in children. So it's, and then we're going to have to worry about water. We have to get water to this development. And then we got to get sewer to run out. And right now, our sewer plant is, working overtime. So we're going to have to do something with the sewer plant. And from the way they talk, that's not going to happen until 2020. So, that's just my feeling right now, that it's going to, there's a lot of things that need to be looked into before we do anything at all. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, back to the second row. Last chance for, well, not last chance. Anybody in the second row want to participate? Third row? Fourth row?
Good morning, President Baker and Commissioners. My name is Rich Hetherington. I live at 131 Colton Court in Smithsburg. And just for complete transparency, I also sit on the town council there. I also want to make it clear that I'm not representing the town council as a body or the mayor or any portion of official representation of the town, other than to say that the positive benefits that you have heard already this morning, there's no point in me sitting here and repeating all of those. The comments by Mr. McLeaf just illustrate the most important piece of this, as far as I am concerned, which is the fact that all these issues that have been brought up, positive and negative, we feel it's best handled under the guidance of the town, our planning commission, our elected officials. The water situation, there's already water on this property. So it's not a question of creating new infrastructure there. It's just managing what we have in the most prudent way for the town. And we feel that the best way for that to happen is for us to have some insight and oversight and control into how that gets developed. We have met with Mr. Cross on numerous occasions and members of the town, and the opposition, the primary opposition to this project are for people that don't live in the town. They take advantage of the benefits that the town provides, yet they're not contributing to our tax base. As you guys are well aware, the cost of running a municipality or a government of any kind, the cost of that continues to rise, just as it does in all of our individual homes. There's improvements in the town we want to make to our parks, to our roads, and increasing our tax base, bringing in some commercial development would certainly benefit the town in a financial capacity. So we're hoping that you can approve this request today so we can continue to move forward with this project. As you heard already, there's a lot of positive benefits that can happen to the town, and we would like to have the ability to work with the concerns that have been brought up in regard to all the infrastructure, schools, traffic, everything. We would like to have the oversight into that process. So, thank you.
Thank you. Can anyone else in the fourth row care to participate? Back row.
Good morning, I'm Neil Becker, President of the Washington County Teachers Association, located at 18047 Oak Ridge Drive, also a Washington County resident with a couple children still in the school system. Good morning, President Baker and commissioners and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. 2 years ago, I was asked by a commissioner why Washington County's kindergarten readiness results were so poor. The county ranked far below where many expected it to be ranked. There are issues related to administering a test to a 5-year-old during his or her first few days of school. We're not going to get into those. More importantly, there are several variables that impact a student's readiness to learn and to achieve at grade level and above. Today's comment period doesn't afford me enough time to address all the variables, but pre-K and birth to 5 programs are essential to stemming what could be negative impacts on children. The kindergarten readiness assessment is intended to measure a student's readiness for kindergarten. Many pointed fingers at Washington County Public Schools for failing its youngest learners, but the test exposed the weaknesses students brought to kindergarten, not their weaknesses after a year of kindergarten. Pre-K services improve student achievement. The state of Maryland does not fund universal pre-K. We do not have pre-K services in Washington County Public Schools for all students. The Board of Education of Washington County has approved a draft budget for consideration, and a public hearing will take place next week. The key elements of the budget include new pre-K learning opportunities throughout the county. Dr. Michael has already increased pre-K offerings this fall. The new budget includes 5 more pre-K teachers starting in January of 2018, about 2 weeks, and 9.5 in the fall of 2018. Funding above maintenance of effort is required to fulfill the school system's attempt to boost early learning opportunities for our students. Studies show that birth to 5 and pre-K significantly improve student achievement well beyond kindergarten. It's an investment early that reaps dividends for decades. Additionally, these early learning programs positively impact the family of the early learner. Parents and siblings are included in the learning activities, improving literacy for the entire family, not just the student. I encourage you to examine the significant cuts Dr. Michael and the Board of Education have instituted in this current fiscal year and have proposed for next year. The budget includes no frivolous spending. It's hyper-focused on transparency and student achievement. The budget must be fully funded to provide the best learning opportunities to the children of Washington County. As I did last month, I invite you to visit schools and to talk with educators. Hear firsthand about the changing demographics in the system, the increased need for special education and English learner services, and the positive impact of birth to 5 and pre-K programs. Thank you for your service to the county. Contact me at convenience to discuss any matters related to public education. Thank you.
Neil, can I ask you just a couple quick questions on that? You
Yes,
said
sir.
that you're going to be needing 5 teachers to get started, then an additional 9.5 teachers
In the
future.
proposed budget, Dr. Michael has,
So does that include, do you need administrators, principals, vice principals, and all of that for these programs, or is this just strictly teachers?
no, there'll be programs in existing schools already, so there'll be no administrative additions. Additions will only be for teachers and for paraprofessionals. By law, there are caps on how many students and adults.
So this is just teachers, and I guess you said paraprofessionals?
Paraprofessionals,
how many will be needed?
commonly called instructional assistants.
How many will be needed?
Generally, there's one paraprofessional and 1 teacher per pre-K classroom.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else in the back row care to participate? Okay, last chance for citizens' participation. Do we have any citizens that I missed that would care to participate? Okay, I guess technically you haven't. Yeah, I guess, yeah, because you never spoke.
I'd just like to clarify the delay in response, reference the railroad tracks. Or do I need to?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Okay, the location where we will be at, right off 64, we will still be able to respond to the Whispering Hills area via 64 across the bridge to East Water Street and come drop back into the town of Smithsburg. And I did drive, I've driven the route before, and we would still provide a 4-minute or less response time to our town. We take a lot of pride in our town. We're proud to be part of it, and we would never neglect that issue at all. So I just wanted to make sure we wanted to clarify that. Rapid intervention is huge. We know that brain death happens within 4 to 6 minutes, so we are aware of that, and we are aware of our care to the community and providing that response time, and we have reviewed that.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you've already spoke, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yeah, you only get to speak once, I'm sorry.
Oh, you want to get to speak one?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. That's okay.
Okay, any other citizens here care to participate that haven't already participated? Okay, citizen participation is over. Okay, let's move on down here to the express approval of the Smithsburg annexation. Mr. Goodrich.
Good morning again. Once again, the subject of express approval of the Smithsburg zoning on the annexed property of Cloverly Hill is before you for some form of action. I need to make it very, very clear that you are not being asked to take action to approve or disapprove the annexation of the property. That's already occurred. That was the jurisdiction of the town. The town of Smithsburg approved the annexation on December the 5th. And a second time on January the 2nd of 2018. What you're being asked to do is to express your approval or express your disapproval of the zoning that the town of Smithsburg plans to assigned to the annexed property, and that would be the general commercial and the town residential zoning. If you don't express your approval, then any development on the property for the next 5 years would have to comply with the county zoning that's on the property before the annexation took place. That would be residential transition and business local. In your agenda material, I supplied to help you make your determination, again, the analysis of the county and the town zoning, the memorandum of understanding between the town and the developer that is attached to the annexation petition that the town approved, the mayor and council's minutes of December the 5th, where they discussed the item and approved the annexation, and also the resolution from the January 2 action. Maybe I should further clarify what express approval means. We're using express as a verb. In other words, for you to express your approval or express your disapproval. We are not using it as an adjective to hurry up a process or express or make things go faster. It's simply a matter of you stating your position on the use of the town's zoning on this annexed property. In other words, to express your approval or your disapproval. The land is already annexed into the town. We're just talking about the zoning. So I can answer questions or fill you in on anything. That's what's before you this morning.
I do have a question. The EMS facility. Under our zoning requirements, could that facility still be built on that property?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't know if you're the person that I asked for that or not, but
That's a formal zoning determination.
No. My next question.
Oh, okay.
This next question, I don't know if you're the person I asked or not, but I know there were signatures being asked for in that community. Were those? Do you know if those signatures were directly in town? They were going, and then
there's a process.
What happened to them?
There's a process after the annexation occurs. If there are citizens either in the town that annexed the property or on the property that was annexed, there is an opportunity, a 45-day opportunity for those citizens to gather signatures to take the question of annexation to a referendum. That is in the process. I know that there are citizens in the area that are gathering signatures. I don't know how many they have, if they've reached their goal, or what the end result of that is, but that is going on at this point in time.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, commissioners?
I just have, Steve, what's the difference between approval and non-approval in regards to the applicant wanting this? I mean, what can he not do that he could do today with the way the property sits in the zoning? So, I mean, and he could go through a process. I guess I'm saying he could still go through different processes to get to the same conclusion. Is that correct?
I'll try to answer that. The town zoning and the county zoning have many similarities, and so many of the things that are permitted in the town zoning, the general commercial and the town residential, are also permitted in the county's residential transition and the business local. There are a couple of gray areas here about the EMS station, for example, and whether that is considered a community facility or a public service type of use. Those things are allowed in the county zoning as well. It depends on how that's classified to determine if it's a permitted use or a special exception use. In general, well, in most cases, the town and the county zoning align. The differences here are that there's much more land being proposed for the town commercial zoning, and the town's commercial zoning is more liberal in the uses that it allows. And those two things are what have led to the need for this express approval. Has that answered your question?
Yes.
Okay.
But the same conclusion could be arrived maybe it'd take a longer period of time.
The same conclusion that.
Same
Build out.
build
That
out.
the uses are permitted.
Yes.
There may be a special exception involved if it's in the county zoning. There still could be special exceptions involved in the town zoning.
If the special exceptions are approved.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But they may be needed in both situations. If it's in the county, possibly for the EMS station or for townhouses. You heard Mr. Cross speak about the townhouses that he would like to develop. That's going to take a special exception in the town as well. So in either case, for that particular use, you have a similar process to go through.
But this would streamline his efforts, make it much easier, and this is the route.
If you give your express approval, it puts all of the authority in the town.
Yes.
I have a question. Express approval, is that usually given carte blanche to the entire property, or can that be partial down?
The way I read the law, it's once. You know, you do it all or you don't do any of it.
So how many
And there may be a legal opinion different than that, but that's my interpretation of what the law says. The law is kind of general. The words in the land use regulations are general, and they don't go into a detail like that.
But in this property, in parcels, how many parcels?
Pardon me?
How many parcels does this annexation?
I'd have to ask Jason, with 3, 4?
Yeah, so you could do one parcel at a time.
3?
So
3 separate parcels?
why couldn't you do, I'm just asking, why couldn't you do one parcel at a time?
My response would be the application for annexation covered all of them, and so you're dealing with it as a package.
And that's how the town approved it. The town annexed the entire thing, which a number of different parcels, but the town annexed the entire thing. So I think the express approval is for all.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, we're looking for a recommended motion. Are you?
You know, we sit here as a group of county commissioners, and as Commissioner Barr just mentioned, you know, we now are looking to our General Assembly and our representation from Western Maryland to go down, and we have on different years requests that we give to them that we have to because of the status of being a commissioner county that have to be taken up in Annapolis. But I believe before we send those requests to our delegation to take to the General Assembly, we have done due diligence here. We've taken a vote. We most of the time have a 5-0 vote to say, delegation, please take this request to the state of Maryland because we need this. We need this change. We need this to better produce economic development in Western Maryland, which we really strive for out here. And you know, one of the things I've noticed being not only a delegate but a commissioner for almost 4 years is that, you know, one of the battles we seem to fight is with our municipalities, and I think that's wrong. You know, we look to these people, whether it's Smithsburg, Hancock, Clear Spring, or wherever, not only to respect us in the capacity that we sit here as commissioners, but, you know, reverse of that, we should respect them. And, you know, several weeks ago, back in the months, we looked at this situation, and Smithsburg came to us saying this is what we're thinking about doing. However, we asked them to go back. We asked their planning commission to look at this. We've asked questions, and once again, I have high regard for our staff, headed by Steve Woodridge, you know, to get us all the answers, and they've done that. They have done that. And Smithsburg's planning commission has done their job. I believe Mr. Cross has done his job, due diligence. And once again, the town of Smithsburg has done their job by taking a vote and saying, yes, this is what we want. And, you know, if we truly are looking to our towns to be able to survive, and I look back here at, you know, one of our mayors is with us today from Hancock, and, you know, they have to have economic development. They have to have a way to expand their tax base. And yes, once again, you know, Mr. Cross is elected to do this, not because he wants to pay more taxes, but he wants services. He wants to be able to have fire and rescue. He wants to be able to have water and sewer and the other things that go along with it. And yes, the town of Smithsburg wants to expand their tax base. So, I think that, we need to strongly look at of approval of this for the town and for our municipality in this situation. And I want to make a motion to.
Before you make that motion, I also want to recognize the mayor of Williamsport's here with us today, Bill Green.
Sorry about that, Mayor McLeave.
Green.
I know who he is. Here, we're friends. But I like.
Okay, but you're ready for the motion.
I would like to, maybe have the comments first, but I'm ready to make a motion for approval of that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the recommended motion to grant the express approval. Any further questions?
I do have a question. Commissioner Myers brought up the topic of taxes. Mr. Goodrich or maybe Mr. Cross, could you explain the deal that was worked out with the town? I believe taxes won't be paid to the municipality until the project is built out. Your normal, regular taxes will be paid to the county?
Commissioner Kiefer, what we asked for on the grounds that the town won't be rendering services to us until such time as we come out of the ground, or in the event that I was to sell the property, including sales of parcels within it as we get going. Yes, we asked for a waiver of the town of Smithsburg's portion of our real property tax bill. So we would pay what we're paying today. We would still pay the county portion. We would still pay the state portion. But as soon as we get going, we'll start paying the town of Smithsburg. Part of that is simply the process. Your express approval vote is one of the many hurdles still in front of me. I still have work with the Smithsburg Planning Commission. I still have work with the Smithsburg Board of Zoning Appeals and with the Smithsburg Town Council. There's still a process ahead. We've asked for relief of that portion of the tax bill while that process is going. If I may, sir, in regards to the signatures, as many of you know, I retired last year after a 30-year Navy Reserve intelligence officer career. As a good intelligence officer, you go digging on what the opposition is doing. My understanding as of last week was that the Smithsburg Annexation group had approximately 26 signatures gathered. Now, I was unaware of a comment that Mr. Goodrich just made that those had to come from either inside the town or from the area to be annexed. Because I can assure you that, at least that I'm aware of, most of those signatures are from persons living in the county that are my immediate neighbors that are an objection. I would close that this is a package deal. We've done the economic analysis to make this work, but I need to put all the ingredients into the stew. So the suggestion perhaps that I proceed in the county if you say no, and still try to do SEMS or try to do other elements, I'd have to get all the elements approved in order to carry out my intentions. That's what's before you. I'm asking you to please approve all of the package of the zoning that Smithsburg's given me so that I can carry out what I've promised to SEMS and to my favorite place and for senior living. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions, comments, commissioners? We have a motion and a second. There are no further discussions. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, 3-2. Congratulations and good luck. Okay, moving on to the back to the Maryland Theater.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Appreciate the chance to come back here today. As I think about where we've come, being with the theater the last 9 years as a member of the board, working with Jessica over 6 years, we appreciate the chance to actually be at this place where we are today, the Maryland Theater. It's a critical milestone as we start our first meeting of the county meetings in 2018. The theater is asking to actually recast its future for the community. It's my sincere desire, our sincere desire, that we can find the county commissioners a decision to help us continue to move forward with this community-wide project, this initiative of expanding the Maryland Theater. Just want to recap just for a second, just a little bit where we are today since our last meeting that we had at the county, with the county and the city coming together in October, on October 10th. The theater's project is a $13+ million project. The funding committed by the state is $5.3 million, to include the governor's funding and state demo fund award. We have a capital campaign goal of about $7 million. To date, well, in October, where we last met, we were $2.3 million of capital funding received. Actually, 3 weeks ago, I'm sorry, in December, we achieved $2.3 million private funding donations, verbal and written commitments. In the last 3 weeks, we've moved that to another $300,000 to $400,000, so we're about $2.9 million of private pledges committed to this project from the community. And we have several $100,000 outstanding right now that we believe we'll be able to close. So we believe very shortly that we'll be over the $3 million mark. We don't want to stop there. We have many other presentations that we've presented to the community and many more meetings to go, and we believe that we'll continue to be successful. In all our discussions with the community, we found a lot of support. In fact, I share that from our last meeting when Commissioner Myers, when you shared that the theater project needs to go forward, as we discussed that with community participants that wanted to pledge money, they really did cite that statement, because the theater's at a place now where financially and from a business, it's a viable business in our community. It's in the last 8 to 10 years, it's really restructured its relationships, its partnerships. We had the MSO share today their partnership with the theater. We have many others with the Board of Education and many other community participants. So what we're asking today is a decision. We're at a critical milestone for the theater. We've delivered our design plans to the city for the planning for permits. And on February 1st, to keep this project on track for 2018, where we'd like to actually put our first shovel in the ground in the fall, we need to put the bids out. As a board president and a member of a board, the board itself needs to make sure that we can actually do this financially in a sound way. And working with the county and the city, we really do look for your leadership and support here in this final stage to move us forward. We feel that once it is complete, it will continue to give a great expansion to the downtown. I think we're up over 100,000 patrons now, and we feel when this project is done in full swing, we're looking to actually double that. CVB is now part of our board, and that through that partnership, we want to work with them to bring travel and activities downtown by partnering with the Maryland Theater, having events at our event center. So we're very excited. We think this project has been designed through a lot of efforts. We aren't here today without your support in many years of the past for the renovations of the theater. So we just appreciate the county commissioner's support to the project and the theater since it's been here, but actually maybe in the last 8 to 10 years, been a great partnership of work with the county and the city. And today we really do look forward to a decision, hopefully to help us. I personally am not a resident of Washington County, but as a business person, I've enjoyed the amazing relationship that I've seen downtown in the county working together for the theater. So as a volunteer, I'm just thankful that I could be part of such a wonderful organization, but also a community that really has worked together. And so I just appreciate moving up here from Loudoun County many years ago. My desire coming out of the intelligence business was to become part of the community where I can participate. And this has been a great community, so thank you. We actually really do hope that we could look towards the county to help us lead this final phase of the project and fund it. The forward funding is a critical part. The theater runs a staff of 4. We're cash positive. We're operationally strong. We have a great board. We have a great group of volunteers and a great patron base and many partnerships that are amazing. This project, this moment is really critical to move forward. So we just ask for your leadership and help to move us forward.
So you're 100% volunteer?
100% volunteer. 9 years. Never thought it'd take this long, but once you get started in the project,
So if we forward fund the project, how many more years are you going to guarantee Washington County on a volunteer?
Yeah, well, I've told Jessica we're in it to the
Forever.
end. We're actually working, quite honestly, to that. We've begun discussions about operational planning 2020, 21. We're talking about the business plans. So I'm personally wanting to see this. I'm a business in the community. I've been here 10 years. A lot of my clients are here, and they just appreciate that I do volunteer, but they love the fact that the theater is a great aspect of our community, and it's an investment in our students, because that's why we're partnering with Board of Education.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have anything to add?
No, I think Benito said it very well. We're just very hopeful for a response from the county today.
Okay, I have trouble keeping up with all of the numbers. I was looking through here. You were requesting $5 million to be forward funded, and then 50% of $2 million based on the banks. So
We're requesting that the county forward fund Governor Hogan's pledge to the project. So forward fund the $5 million.
okay. So then, if we were to work on possibly coming up with some forward funding on that, then we would not be included in the 50% of the private pledges?
Our request was three-pronged. The first part was to pledge $3 million in conjunction with the city of Hagerstown, which would be grant funding that would go to the construction. To date, the county and city have granted $1 million, which went to the architectural process. They have not contributed dollars to the construction of the project. So that's what that first request is, $3 million. The second request is to forward fund the governor's money. And the third request was to work with our local banks so that we can forward fund our private pledges. Our private pledges of currently $2.9 million are coming in payable over 5 years. So the banks have preliminarily committed to forward funding 50% of the pledges, and we're asking the commissioners to forward fund the other 50%. None of our requests relate to you.
So all in total, just give me the total number of dollars is what I'm interested in. You said $3 million. Of that $3 million you wanted forward funded, we've only provided $500,000 of that?
The $500,000 that you committed was for the design process that is completed at this time.
Okay, but you said, huh?
It's us saying the city.
Yeah, but you said there's already been $1 million contributed toward the $3 million that you requested for forward funding.
No,
I don't think any of those values are considered in the request in the December 17 letter. I think the values that were mentioned here are already in place. This is above and beyond those values. Is that correct?
Correct. The only dollars that we're asking the county to actually give to us is the $3 million in grant funding for construction dollars. And if you choose to work with the city in some collaboration, that would be wonderful. The other monies, we're simply asking for a forward funding setup. So there would be a payable and a receivable. It would not be debt in any way, shape, or form. We would pay it all back as the monies came in from Governor Hogan, as the monies come in from the private pledges.
And the pledge direction is over a 5-year period. So with our pledges, our private pledges, they're over a 5-year period.
So you're asking for us to forward fund $5 million that you're going to repay with pledges.
$5 million that we will repay with the governor's money, and technically the governor's money comes to the county before it comes to the theater.
But you're also just asking us to give you
Correct.
$1.5 million.
Correct.
What if we loaned it to you?
I believe that goes as debt. I don't know. So I'm not sure how the county wants to work with that in that way.
Match the cities. Match the city?
We've spoken with the city, and they're very committed to this project. I believe they're anxious to see a commitment from the county
What are they
and
contributing
then
in
make their
dollars?
decision.
What's the city contributing in dollars?
They have not committed a dollar amount. They are waiting to see what the county commits.
Well, we'll do a match.
Theater moving with dates that we have to, and until we could collectively get this all worked out, why couldn't we just loan them the $1.5 million? And then we can deal with whether it's how much we're going to do when we have more time to deal with it.
Okay, and then the $1.5 million would go to what? I thought that
50% of what they're talking about.
you're talking about only right now at this point in time contribute.
I have no problem with, and once again, look back to forward funding. I mean, I think we're in a position that we could loan the Maryland Theater $6 million, and with a very low interest rate. Okay, because this is the taxpayers' money, and then obviously backing that up was the governor's money. I understand that. And,
Commissioner, I would just offer that offering a loan would put debt on the county's books, whereas we're asking for forward funding. So it wouldn't be on your books. It would simply be a payable and a receivable.
Kind of interpretation of words.
Yeah, we could have staff look into something like that, so if we were to do something for staff.
I mean, we're becoming your line of credit. I guess I don't quite agree.
If we were to do.
Right. I think it's, we're becoming your line of credit.
Yeah, I don't
Sort
know
of,
that.
not based,
Staff would have to
but
guide me on that.
with a line of credit, there is a fee.
I think a loan that the county would give wouldn't be debt to the county, it would be debt to the theater, but it would be an asset to the county nonetheless. Money that's been lent down, but money that's also due to the county, so.
And that you would only have to hold that for a short period of time until your funds came in from the state, et cetera.
The funds are coming to the county.
Correct. But I mean, until the funds will be received from the state, unless, I don't know if Serafini, has he ever talked about doing a bond bill? Could they do a bond bill for that amount of money or anything like that?
No.
It is
You could, but it's almost impossible.
Because it's guaranteed.
What's the period of time for the money to come in from Governor Hogan?
comes in fiscal 21 and 22. We're asking you to fund it in fiscal year 19 and 20.
And I will say the notion of the forward funding of the governor's money has long been discussed. So as it's mentioned here in line item number 2 of the December 17 letter, that portion has long been discussed.
I'm okay with staff
funding.
getting together, figuring out.
We determine, if you want something to move forward with, I'm willing to do that until we have more time to maybe kick this around. But that would at least, I was hearing a February 1 date. And I would also put something out there for the city to know that we're willing to do, to see what they're doing. And then if the city's going to come up with $1.5 million, maybe it's got to come back to us. But I believe what President Baker's saying is that, what's the city going to do, and we don't know.
Unfortunately, we put this initial request out in a joint city and county meeting October 10th. So here we are 4 months later, and in order to proceed with our described timeline of going out to bid February 1, not only do we need forward funding of the governor's money, we need the additional $3 million in construction funding.
But my hope is this, is that when this project was started, it was a monumental project by the Maryland. Once again, I hope you understand with comments like this, we are in support, but we also have to have you understand that we can only do so much, and we want to work with you, and hopefully when we show our citizens that we're doing what we can with their money, that they will give, and that your donations will increase, because of the commitment the county is making. And number 2, that with the whole project, the school and the college and everything else is going down here, will free up more space for you to have more events at the theater for more revenue.
Just keep in mind, if we were to forward fund, I'm just going to use 5 or 6 million. I don't have a total number there, and you would have to work this out with staff. If it would be low interest, you would make a monthly payment back to the county. That monthly payment, I would think, would be low enough that as your donations were to come in, that would secure many, many months for you. And then in addition, when the governor's money came in by 2022, it's over with. So I guess that would be my suggestion, is to meet with staff to see what you could come up with to try to keep your cost minimal and ours, and assure us that, like I said, I have no doubt that the state money will arrive, but I do have to protect the citizens.
So what you're, I guess I just want to be clear too, the $3 million that we were asking as a grant from the county and the city on that October meeting, what it looks like is then it's more of a loan in that area as well. Today.
I guess I'm saying I want to see more of that shared commitment from the city.
And I guess I just, when I look back at the theater the last 8, 9 years from a business standpoint, to become financially sound on entertainment, on shows, the margin on that, I guess as a business going into this project, we just have to be very careful about that level of financial commitment without, as a loan aspect rather than a grant prospect. We believe we, deliver a lot of value to the community by bringing a lot of the community downtown. And we believe the return on that investment is significant, not only just the next couple of years, but many years forward. And as a board, I know we're going to look at it and say, what's the financial risk here also when it goes down to the loan process rather than the other. We're doing our best to raise as much money privately. We're definitely ahead of our schedule, but to be able to achieve, there's a lot of county requirements, a lot of ask, a lot of commitments in the community right now for fundraising. And so we're competing with that as well. So the challenge is not just for the theater, but for a lot of the other organizations.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, right now for the time constraints that you're on, I'm not saying that a portion or all of that could not become a grant.
Okay.
I'm just saying that would this be something that, in order to keep things moving and show not only your commitment, but the county's commitment forward on it, at least they see that you're.
I would love to have more involved discussions with the staff and others to really kind of shore up the financial path forward in as a responsible way for all parties involved. What we don't want to do is we don't want to miss the milestone. If we don't move forward, if we don't move forward on this commitment date, it will be another year at least before the theater can move forward, because the theater has activities and responsibilities to organizations and entertainers that are already on the coming.
So our A&E team has requested an initial 90-day closure when our construction starts. So that means regardless of what year we start construction in, they need a 90-day dark period on our stage, which means that we can only start construction during the summer, July 1st, regardless of what year. So if we do not go out to bid February 1st and start July 1st of 18, then it would be the same schedule in 2019.
And the concerns there obviously are cost, but also approvals that we've received to move forward on the project.
And then impact on the project next to us.
I've heard the cost to move the theater forward before the school, that you would incur more cost by going first. I don't know.
No, a good point. Good. I really appreciate you bringing that. One of the points I wanted to bring up today, our internal architectural engineers believe there's several hundred thousands of dollars opportunity savings to actually go first, to move forward into by doing the abatement and demolition in the alley area. We feel that there's a lot more actually in cost savings in construction costs and stuff like that if the theater continues on this path, even though there's a redesign right now going on next door. We feel that our internal engineering have looked at it and say there's possible significant cost savings to not only both all parties involved, even outside, more so not even the theater, for other parties involved.
Okay, when will you be meeting with the city again?
We don't have a meeting scheduled at this time. We sent a similar letter.
Yeah, I can only speak for myself, but I would like for you to go ahead and meet with staff to see what ideas and thoughts that they could come up with working with you. And I don't know where the commissioners are. I mean, that's just my opinion.
I'm supportive of the project and helping the theater in some form or fashion. I think you're an anchor not just for the city of Hagerstown, but the county in general. And I hope it's comforting to know it sounds like you're going to, you hopefully will be getting the financial resources in some method from the county, whether it's a split of a grant or a loan. It's probably going to be a combination of each, I would assume. Hopefully the minimum amount that you might be paying on interest, if it is a loan to the county, would be compensated by the fact that would hopefully be a substantial contribution as well, free money, that grant money, to the theater. So I guess we just have to come up with the mix and the amount and to make it happen. But I'd like us to maybe come up with our idea, but not be dependent upon the city. As far as timeline of getting them an answer, I think they need an answer soon, so the project isn't delayed. But I think we could do something along the lines of a loan and a grant.
I'd like to encourage my fellow commissioners to think long and hard about this. I mean, these folks have come to us since October. To some degree, I think we've dilly-dallied around. And to show true leadership throughout the whole of our community, not just the city of Hagerstown, but when you attend an event, and I'm going to go back onto my soapbox of, and I'm going to be very blunt and straight out. When my wife and I are at pretty much every event at the theater, particularly the MSO, and I don't see anyone from elected bodies in our community, it's a shame. And I think it's high time we make a strong stance, and we can talk all we want. We can talk about how important the Maryland Theater is to this community. It's paramount. It's paramount to everything that's going on downtown. If the Maryland Theater hiccups and doesn't meet these deadlines and gets a shovel in the ground, it's going to be serious, and probably to the point of serious as some other anticipated projects will more or less disappear. I know for a fact as a local businessman, there's other things going on across the street and down the street. The City Plaza, if nothing else, the extenuation of the City Arts and Cultural Trail. I see folks here from the city who I know want to get that Arts and Cultural Trail completed over to the first block of West Washington Street. So I think the time that we sit here and say, well, let's wait, let's hold off, let's kick the can back, let's go see what the city wants to do. I'm one that says no, darn it. As a businessman, when my folks come to me and say we need this or we need that, and it's like either we are or we aren't, let's do it. And I think we need to send a strong message to our community. I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready to forward fund. It's no different than a business proposition that I do every day at my business. I want to bid a job. I've got to have resources. I've got to have manpower, equipment. I've got to put all that on the line to be able to go out and respond. And then it comes back over time. And I think this is no different. It's just simply forward funding.
I'm ready to support this decision today.
That's where I'm at.
Any further delay, we're going to jeopardize the whole urban improvement project and be a complete failure if we sit here and watch government at its work, delaying, stalling, asking for meetings. I'd support this presentation as presented.
We've talked about this darn thing for 2 years. Many of us have been to Annapolis, to the Begathon, if no other better word. I mean, I've been there. I've sat there. I sat there last winter, and I leaned over and grabbed Senator Serafini by the arm, and I said, have we done this? Have we done that? No, we haven't. I'm like, what in the devil am I doing sitting down here in front of my peers in the state if we haven't done those things. And
From Maggie McIntosh to Governor Hogan, tremendous support for Washington County, Hagerstown, leading the way with urban development. And we're going to sit here, stall and delay, and be awkward and not accept.
No one's stalling the delay.
Four months is a delay to me.
For a creative
Yeah, you're
way
welcome
of
to your
making
opinion.
sure that the taxpayers' money is spent
welcome.
properly. And all I'm saying is that, you know, if we're going to forward fund the 5 million is one item. Are you ready to give them a grant for $1 million?
It's still a delay to me, and jeopardizing this project to start in 2019 could mean this whole project.
I ask a question. Are you?
I'm willing to support the 3 points right now. If you guys want to split it up in a grant or a loan for that money, then make that motion now.
Now, I understand your 5 million. Are you saying you're ready to grant them 1.5 million?
I'm willing to authorize to support the projects as the 3 points as listed today to get this project.
What are the 3 points?
Right in the letter that's in our sheet.
The 3 points
It's-
were
Yeah, it's in our booklet there, right there in the
the
letter.
$3 million in grant funding to construction, to forward fund the governor's money, and to forward fund at a rate of 50% the private pledges. Those were the 3 points.
So that means what you talked about the last time, a couple of weeks ago, with the banks is out.
The banks are willing to forward fund the private pledges at the other
At
half,
other
the other
50%.
50%. And frankly, with the $3 million in grant funding, private pledges would be approximately $4 million, which is where the $2 million comes in. Does that make sense? I know it's a lot of numbers. I would thank Commissioner Barr and Klein for their comments. The theater absolutely feels the same way. We've been sitting in Monday morning meetings 2 to 4 times a month for over a year discussing this project. Last year at this State of the County, this project was placed as a top priority for the county, and we've kept you up to date throughout that year. We haven't entered this project with any haste, and we're prepared to move forward as a small independent nonprofit. I think we've done everything that's been asked of us, and we've started announcing an unprecedented level of support from our local and state government. And I would share Commissioner Klein's comments that everybody is looking to Washington County. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but now we've launched this capital campaign and collected $2.9 million from our citizens and taxpayers, and to have the county delay further, I think would be very detrimental to our capital campaign.
No one's saying delay. I was pleased, and I think that's a little bit of a slap there. I'm not delaying. I was looking at a creative way to move things forward. If we could not get all the support from, I mean, for us just to say, here's your money, with no effort on your behalf to get a capital campaign underway, that would I guess your idea would be for it to be fully funded by a capital. I mean, you know, you would hope that there would be enough interest to take care of it all, that you wouldn't be sitting here. Okay, I'm just saying that I feel that yes, the governor's money could not come. Is that true? Is that true? The possibility?
I don't believe history shows that.
I know that, but I'm saying it could. And the only thing I'm saying is that we have to be very clear on what we're doing, is that we're using the county's taxpayers' money to forward fund this. And I guess I have less concern and almost no concern about the $5 million from the governor. I have no problem with that. Okay? I mean, you're right. History does not allow probably anything I can think of. But the other $1.5 million, I just want to be sure that we're doing due diligence.
Well,
and hey, you know, one vote. I just I want to be sure that we're doing right by you, to the point where you don't give up on the contract.
I was going to make a point, so I appreciate that. This project doesn't stop when someone says, yes, the project's funded by the county and city and others. The theater's capital campaign, we've now taken amongst ourselves as a board, just as a board, to run this project on our own now. We've had someone design it, they're finished, we're now moving forward. we see several years of capital campaign and project giving requests and relationship building. Because the theater project is the first step to its long-term future. The next step is operationally strong, and we're going to build an endowment program, a lot of other things far beyond the capital project. The capital project will help us build the next stage of endowment giving. There's already been a fund established to be there, to be part of that future. So I just want to give you assurance, we are not going to stop. We have a lot of requests out, and we're going to continue to work because we feel that's a responsible thing for the theater to do. This project's design has always become self-sufficient, self-sustaining. The last thing I want to do as a business person is to keep coming back and ask someone for money at the county, the city. So we've built this project to be a self-sustaining project long-term. And the capital campaign itself has been designed to do that as well. So I really do appreciate the thoughts there of not stopping. That's why we want to say since the letter was written, we've raised another $300,000 to $400,000, and another $300,000 to $400,000 is in process of hopefully being signed, and we're going to continue growing from there. So,
For myself, I've never once said that I'm not in support of this project. I've always supported the theater's request.
Absolutely.
I'm supporting this request. All I'm trying to do is to get it to where I'm comfortable representing all of the Washington County citizens with the amount of money that I'm going to be forwarding to your theater.
Absolutely.
I have not a problem supporting the project. I'm not trying to hold anything up. All I'm trying to do is be responsible and accountable to the taxpayers of Washington County. And that's the only reason I wanted you all to meet with our staff to see if we could come up with something creative that, because I've only ever said that I'm supporting $4.5 million to this project. When this all started, I told Greg Murray what I was going to be comfortable with, and now I'm exceeding that. And here again, all I want to do is be able to figure out a way to be accountable to my taxpayers of Washington County who work hard for their money. And I'm not trying to derail the project. And I've heard that out in the community that I'm trying to derail the project. I've never, ever once said I'm trying to derail the project. I'm trying to move the project forward. And all I want to do is get with staff so that staff can get back with me. It gives me my information so that I can come up with something that I'm comfortable supporting to move this project forward. So if a low-interest loan, for some reason, I don't know what the problem would be for a low-interest loan. If the money is all there, you extend it over a period of time. It's a minimal amount of money per payment until all the money's come in 2022. It should be all off the books. That's all I was looking at. So I'm very much in favor of the project. I want to support the project. I've committed to the project. you've never once heard me say I'm not in support of the project. So, I just would like for you to take a couple of days, meet with staff, and see if we can come up with something creative so that we can move the project forward. So, and when you're talking this amount of money, I don't think a week is irresponsible, to look for, some comfort level for myself.
And if we are going to have those discussions, I think it's important now while the board is convened to be clear on a few things. Is one thing interest? We can provide scenarios that include interest or no interest, both. The banks, are the banks including interest or not?
we haven't heard a final on that.
Okay.
So there's a very creative way that they're looking at it too.
That would be one detail the commissioners may want to know. The other item that's up in the air right now, to no one's fault or delay or anything, is the fact that there's a rebid for the Board of Education. So the 4.5, of which now design 500 has already been spent roughly by the city of Hagerstown, by the Washington County, as you've already mentioned. That's been done, but the $4 million remaining is with the Board of Education. The Board of Education, until they get bids back, they don't know exactly what that dollar value is remaining. So that number could be all over the place. I think for the commissioners to stay intact with the number that they had originally committed in, that's in all the matrices that we've seen to date, they would like to know probably what that number is going to be. Unfortunately, we probably won't have that by your February deadline. That's just a statement of fact that's unfortunate. The other thing And final thing that comes to mind in trying to get to an end, which is a progressive end and a productive end, not an end of the project, is are the commissioners interested, if it's truly a loan, are the commissioners interested in seeing that there's viability for repayment? That's what would be one of the subject matters of the discussion. That's what staff will have to know as we enter into these discussions. I ask those questions because I would like to bring both the Maryland Theater a solution and the Board of County Commissioners a solution. And I'm sure that staff that's worked on this and will work on this diligently in the next few weeks before February 1st to bring it back to you. The more information we have and guidance and direction, the better we can find that solution.
Okay, that's what I'm comfortable with. Do you want to move forward? I guess Commissioner Myers and Commissioner Kiefer, you want to meet with staff, you want to move forward, what do you want to do?
Well, it sounds like a little bit of the loan you might get from the bank is still up in the air too, as far as the final terms of that. So it's maybe not just the county that needs to come up with a solution, the bank may too. You know, has the thought of the county serving as a loan guarantor, kind of like the SBA administration does for small businesses, if the bank's willing to loan the money interest-free?
You just have to work together on that.
You know, let's explore that possibility too, but it sounds like there's commitment from the commissioners to help with the funding in some form or fashion. Sooner rather than later, obviously, but it sounds like there's a lot of moving pieces that still need to fall into place. And, you know, we started last year, well, in 2016, I guess, with an MOU with all the parties, and some of that's changed a little bit too along the way. But hopefully you can get with staff and we can come out with an agreeable solution. It's, you know, ideally maybe for the county, a mix of loans and grant money to help them.
And that's the great thing, taking all of our concerns as county commissioners, we're all individuals, trying to cooperate and get everything together so that we can come up with something that we all can agree on. I think we all agree we want to move forward. Any other comments, commissioners? Okay, Rob, you'll take it from there, meet with them and talk to the commissioners. Okay, thank you.
Well, we appreciate the chance to, again, talk about this great project for our community. Look forward to kind of really working through the details to secure a path forward. Thank you.
Okay, let me find my sheet here. State Development Plan meeting with Maryland Departments of Planning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon now, yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for having us. Thank you for that introduction. We know that your time is very limited. We are here today because Governor Hogan has given us a great opportunity in signing an executive order back in August. Many of you were there at the MACO convention. In signing that executive order, he's instructed the Department of Planning to move forward with a process to develop a new state development plan. And he did not present a plan, he presented a process by which we're going to be working together, having an opportunity to work with everyone across the state with a plan that enriches the lives of all Marylanders, which focuses on growing responsibly, but just as importantly, protecting our resources across the state. We've embarked on a 24 area listening session, which we're in the 23 counties and the city of Baltimore. We spend the day there. We have the opportunity to meet. This morning, we met with the planning staff in Washington County. We're fortunate to have some of your time today. And tonight, we'll meet with the public of Washington County, opening it up. Really, it is listening. We're here to listen. And without taking any more time, because I know that you're on a compressed schedule, we would just like to open the floor to you. Any concerns that you might have, challenges, any things that you personally would like to see in the state development plan, suggestions. But I would like to just turn it over to you for comments, because we are here to listen.
Any comments, Commissioner? Questions?
I'd just like to see if they could plan to have a little higher temperatures through the winter. Been too cold the last couple of weeks.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions, thoughts? And you're meeting with the public this evening,
Yes, sir.
and that'll be located?
That's at the community college.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. I will say that there are also opportunities to go to our website, abetter.maryland.gov. There's information there about the listening sessions that we've had already, the feedback that we're getting from local jurisdictions. There's also an opportunity to log in and give responses to the poll that we have. We would encourage your residents to do that as well. This truly is about listening to all areas of the state and putting together a plan that works for all areas of the state. Because as you know, under Governor Hogan, the entire state is important, and we want to have a future for the entire state of Maryland that's thriving.
So maybe you mentioned during our staff meeting that this is not it's important for me to say now, this is not your one and only chance to give the state the feedback. If you, certainly can do it today, this afternoon if you want, but if you feel you'd rather have several sessions or presentations from your local staff and fact gathering and that sort of thing, we can do that over a period of time and submit comments at some time in the future or multiple times in the future. I understand their ears will be open for quite a while while they're developing the plan. We also invited mayors and elected council members and appointed planning commission members from all of the municipalities in the county. Many of them are here in the audience this afternoon as well. And if there's a desire, we will find a place for them to meet and talk with the secretaries after we're done here today.
The one thing I do want to point out in terms of this is truly a new state development plan approach, and one of the things that we are trying to do is through these listening sessions hear from you on what what you want to celebrate in your communities. What assets you have, and Washington County certainly has a tremendous number of assets, and we spent a good portion this morning talking to Steve, Jill, and several of the other planning staff, and you have a great county with a lot of good planning that's already taken place. And through this state development plan, we want to celebrate those examples of best practices that you have in Washington County, as well as identify challenges that you currently are experiencing that through the state development plan, we're hoping to set up an information portal that brings this information together, coordinates it without the state agencies, the challenges that you have with the state agencies, prioritize action plans to advance the issues of our communities so that we can help you make greater communities along the way.
Secretary Peters, I know the governor's plan for Open for Business is now being unveiled, and it's very encouraging. We've seen it here in Washington County be of a benefit with MDOT work and SHA and so forth, and I imagine that's only going to continue to spread. So it's very energetic. It's very encouraging. I myself worked for an MPO while in college as an intern, so I have some planning knowledge, but I think for many people, and Steve may agree with this, planning is somewhat removed from many people's lives because it is so far ahead, or sometimes at a 30,000-foot perspective. Would you be able to give a couple, or maybe Steve can, just a couple anecdotes to what you are looking for in this plan that might help the community? or maybe what you would like to talk about this evening in the public meeting or public hearing as you'll be listening to people?
Sure. Well, part of what we're looking for is from the state's perspective. This is not going to be a top-down approach. Okay, we're out here listening from your perspective as a resident, as a citizen. What can the state do to help local jurisdictions in planning? What resources can we provide? What technical assistance can we provide? How can we do better? Because we do want to do better as a state generally. The other perspective, we have asked a number of questions of residents in our polls with regard to what do you see as the number one challenge in your area? What do you see as something that is an asset in your area, and how can we build on that asset to help you from an economic development perspective? It's those kinds of things. And Chuck, I don't know if you want to add more.
Well, I mean,
Chuck facilitates
one of the things that, and I'll just give you an example, one of our first meetings was in Garrett County. And one of the things that they talked about is, and one of the things that we're really going to start working on right now, and we don't have to wait till 2019 to start to implement these things. But they talked about one of the challenges that they have is that the Deep Creek area disproportionately skews a lot of their population numbers. So when they apply for grants for the state, they have that Deep Creek area that really makes it look a lot better than the rest of the state. And so one of the things that they said would be better if we would be able to kind of have either smaller pictures, statistical information from different parts of Garrett County so that we can get a better picture when we start to apply for grants. Quite frankly, have the state agencies be more receptive to grant applications with a different set of statistics. So these are things that we want to take back, and we want to talk to our state agencies, and we'll say, hey, this is what we heard in Garrett County. Or similarly, we're hearing similar types of these issues in other parts of the state. So we want to prioritize those types of issues so that we can resolve these governmental impediments a lot of times to providing the services that we want to provide. So that's just one example. And again, we know that Washington County is unique, and one of the things that we are stressing, and we've heard this time and again, and we truly believe ourselves, is this plan, no one community is the same, and so there's no one size fits all. The regulations need to be more responsive and more customized and flexible to accommodate those things. And so we're trying to bring those back. We're working with our state partners along the way to address those issues. And so again, we're going to develop action plans for prioritization. So we really want to know from you, what are your priorities? And so one of the things that we're going to ask tonight is what are the priorities in terms of different areas of a community, whether it be land use, whether it be transportation, whether it be schools, whatever, what are your priorities? And those are the kinds of things that we're going to, again, work with our state partners to find out what their issues are. One of the things we're also trying to stress is we don't want to make more work for anyone in this thing. This is all about utilizing your existing missions and your existing duties, and to work within those systems and not add another layer of government, another ask. So there is absolutely no ask on this process other than for us to hear what your concerns are so that we can make sure that we start to address them.
And while Chuck noted that really one size does not fit all, and we recognize that, and flexibility is needed. It's interesting that despite the differences geographically and otherwise across the state, there are a lot of similarities with regard to issues and concerns. And some of those include, one of the biggest ones we've heard so far is maintaining the youth in our community. Children go to school there, they then move away, go to college, and they never see them again. And part of that's a job market. There are a lot of different things that account for that. So these similar issues that we're hearing from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and that will help us then work with other jurisdictions that maybe have solved that problem. Not having to reinvent the wheel, but to be able to talk about success stories, or as Chuck referred to, also best practices, to be a resource for local jurisdictions.
Just one more question. Maryland Department of Planning, does the Maryland Historical Trust fall within the
Yes, sir.
Maryland
It
Department
is
of
a division of the Department of Planning. Yes, sir.
So that may be a topic of discussion at your meetings as well.
Absolutely, sure. Sure.
And let me just add, as the acting secretary, we come at this process with some local government viewpoints that we have based on experience. Secretary Peters has a local government experience as municipal person, and I did 16 years in Harford County, and I had municipalities in the county to deal with. We have seen counties having to solve problems. We've been part of counties and municipalities solving problems. So we're listening carefully. We understand it's not one size fits all. I like to say that Maryland, we're getting a true picture on the ground that Maryland is like a quilt, not like one colored sheet that fits everything. It's a quilt. We appreciate each piece, and the state's job is to make sure they go together seamlessly and we don't prevent the cooperation. We're trying to move from avoiding conflict to actually encouraging collaboration. So that's part of the goal of the process that we're in right now. And we are open for business as far as any time that you have comments that you want to send in to us. It can go through the website, and it can go directly to either of us. We're happy to hear from you anytime you want to raise an issue with us. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
I have a few comments, if I may. I thank you for coming out today. Washington County, sorry, we were running a little behind. A lot of important
The
issues.
business of government, we get it.
Always deal with. County staff provided some excellent notes to look at beforehand, and I'm looking through here and seeing the wide range of issues that you'll be focusing on and getting feedback from. Just a few issues that come to my mind from just looking at the people in the audience. We have some folks here from the town of Williamsport, and I know an issue for the town of Williamsport is an issue for a large section of Washington County is Interstate 81. And we know that the expansion, the widening of those lanes is an economic hindrance, it's a safety issue, it's a convenience hassle, and I'm sure you'll probably hear some feedback and remarks tonight about that, so please be conscious of that. We also have the mayor of Hancock here, and a lot of our small towns have to deal with some sewer upgrades, which are costly, and the expertise and able to do that is costly and expensive as well. You're talking about small towns that have a population of under 2,000 folks, and when they can't get those upgrades, that's a hindrance on economic development as well. So, if there could be more assistance there as well, those are mandates that, are needed, no doubt, but it's a huge financial burden on a small community to have to deal with that. I think is something that's important. Also, safety with drug and crime. We have our sheriff here. It's not unique to Washington County or the state of Maryland, but the drug epidemics and, how that flows to our community. We have quite a few interstates here in Washington County, Interstate 68, 70, 81. Those are thoroughfares for commerce, yeah, but a lot of, bad things that can come through our community, and the cost that burdens Washington County with is great, lives and dollars. So I think those are some important things that I hope you consider and maybe can help out with. And I know you have a lot of issues to deal with, but I'm sure those aren't issues unique to Washington County. Maybe widening 81 is.
Well, and much of the feedback that we're hearing really crosses across the numerous cabinets within the SMART growth, or the numerous agencies within the SMART growth subcabinet. And this feedback will be discussed at the SMART growth subcabinet level on a pretty regular basis to be sure that we come together as agencies and come up with a solution to many of those issues.
Very good.
And can I just
Anything?
close by telling you, your county will always have a soft spot in my heart. My great aunt, Dorothy Lohman, is, I think, your oldest resident here at 104, but she is a resident of Williamsport. Not
You just had a
Hagerstown.
birthday recently, right?
June 9th,
Yeah.
yes, she'll be turning 105, so just thought I would. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it very much.
Okay, I don't think I missed anything. Motion to go into closed session for reasons stated.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.